Hello everyone and welcome. I'm Nikki, and for those of you that are new here, my channel is dedicated to all things having to do with books. I focus especially on reviews, particularly for books by lesser known or indie authors like myself. So today the book that I want to talk about is Mr. Love by Sally Mason. Mr. Love is tagged as a romantic comedy, but I don't think it fits either description really. There's absolutely no chemistry between the characters, and any scenes that have any potential for humor come off as really just dry. So, Mr. Love follows Jane Cooper and Gordon Rushworth, both of whom are really just one-dimensional. Gordon's a pompous, self-absorbed jerk, and Jane just kind of goes through the motions of her own life. It starts off where Jane finds out that her fiancé likes to get kinky when she's not around. The situation created an opening to be funny, but Jane's reaction to the whole thing was a lot more pathetic than anything else. Instead of doing anything about the cheating douchebag she was going to marry, she mopes around and she ends up exiling herself to her couch because she doesn't even have the balls to go into their bedroom anymore. This doesn't really scream strong female protagonist to me. Trying to keep the focus off of her personal life, Jane throws herself into her job as a literary agent. Her latest assignment brings her to Gordon. Gordon is an academic. He's also a writer. He has spent the last 10 years working on his novel, Too Long the Night, an ode to the childhood love he lost and his ensuing pursuit of the philosophical. He comes off very holier than thou throughout the entire book. Though we don't actually see any of that book that he's written, other characters talk about it, and they talk about how pretentious and long and just really bad that book was. Gordon, the egotistical ass that he is, thinks that his book is completely infallible and everyone else that's talking crap about it is just full of shit. He thinks that deep, great literature can only be written by men. Don't even get me started on this one. And anything that falls short of what he deems as a serious writing is utter crap, like chick lit. However, in a total bind, he writes a quick romance that ends up selling like crazy. Kudos to Gordon though, because it's super hard to get sales when you self-publish, and especially when you don't do any advertising for your book. It's hard to get sales when you do advertise your book. When Jane comes to offer him a contract, he gives his sister authorship because he's ashamed of what he thinks is a trashy novel. He has worked 10 years to write the next great American novel. He ended up writing a chick lit that did really well, and he's ashamed of it, which, why'd you write it in the first place? So the idea of a secretive and male author for a best-selling women's fiction book and the character's journey to put that book on the map can easily be funny. But as I've said before, these characters just lack any depth, and so the entire book just gets really long and kind of boring. So obviously everything is my own opinion, but one thing that kind of annoyed me personally was that Gordon's best-selling book, Ivy, is about a woman who uses her sexuality to get what she wants, and she has power over men. Characters based on men that had somehow wronged Gordon in the past, so he's using this writing as kind of just his own form of revenge against them. However, Mr. Love itself was just kind of prudish. Jane and Gordon hook up, they start making out, and then the scene fades to black. Okay, no problem. Unbeknownst to some authors, you can have a romance without turning it into an erotica. But when Jane is reminiscing the next day about what they did, he thinks about how he made her feel with his mouth and fingers and ... It literally says that she can't even think the word. Then later, after they've, kind of built this relationship, when it switches to Gordon's point of view, they start getting hot and heavy again, and Sally Mason describes the act as it. Part of the plot is that Gordon wrote a very explicit take on a woman's libido and sex drive, but the actual plot of Mr. Love is extremely PG. Like I said, it doesn't have to get erotic, like that's so overplayed by now. But there are plenty of ways to describe sex without digging too deep. Making love, doing the dirty, screw, bang, the horizontal tangle, dance with no pants, metaphorical beasts with two backs. The last couple were from Big Bang Theory, I'm not even gonna lie. But how hard was that? You can still keep it clean without sounding like a shy preteen. There just wasn't any humor in the book, and the characters, like I said, came off as very flat, and they didn't have any chemistry, so I'm gonna have to put this one in the didn't like column. It had potential, like I said, the whole premise of trying to find out who really wrote Ivy was pretty good, and it could have been very funny, but the romance seemed forced, and the characters had no depth to them. I found myself just really bored more often than I was amused by it. When I read the synopsis before I got this book, I really liked this idea, and I was hoping that it'd be, just a fun read. But unfortunately, that's just, in my opinion, that's not what I got. Alright, so that's it for today. Those are my thoughts on Mr. Love by Sally Mason. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed my review, and if so, you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. All the links are going to be listed below in the description. I post new videos on Mondays, so subscribe and ring the little bell down below, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!